tell me that doesn't look cool. No, seriously. Tell me that this doesn't look like something you want to add to your collection. This is another Board Game Cove unboxing. Hi, I'm Alex, by the way, in case you're new here. Shut Up and Sit Down would be proud. This is going to be another completely all-in unboxing, getting all the stuff that we completely don't need. And honestly, they might be right. This game is bound to disappoint. The level of interest I have in this game, the level of hype that I have of wanting to play a polyomino-based tower defense game, two genres that I love. And polyomino games, honestly, have never been... I don't think I've ever played a polyomino game that wasn't fun. It's just a question of how fun compared to others. Versus tower defense, I don't know if I've ever played a tower defense game that I truly loved. The closest I'm going to have is Besieged, and that's a game that I still wrestle with the fact that one day it will leave my collection. I'm sure of it, to be frank. I could be wrong. I keep it around in case I'm wrong. Also, I keep it around because you don't have to own a game forever for it to be worth owning. Games are fun. They're meant to be played, and when you play them enough times and you sit there and say, I now have something else better, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm going to hold on to the spacer because I assume I need it in some way for right now. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, shut up and sit down. I mean, that wasn't really the point of my video, but I guess now it's going to be. They put out a video recently talking about Etherfields, talking about how they were against the concept, and we'll get to their Etherfields review later. I do have a review coming for that one as well. It's actually set up under here as we speak. But that aside, they talked about the concept of going all in, of how people keep backing games and giving all their money to companies, and it's crazy and it's insane, and I half agree with them. Let's look at this rulebook for a second before we explain more. So, this is Kingdom Rush, like I said, a polyomino tower defense game. We got components on page 3. We have rules, game setup. So, game setup starting on 5. Rules beginning on page 6. Fairly decent in terms of pictures, not overly text heavy. Well, I guess it's a little text heavy, but doesn't look that hard to read and comprehend. So we got from page 6 to, let's see how far. This is the thing I like to do with rule books. Page 6 brings us to page 17, where we start talking about the solo mode, which means it's probably 11 pages of rules. Yep, and then the appendix. Yep, 11 pages of rules, not the hardest to comprehend, and the basics of the game I already know just from the Kickstarter. The actual game itself we'll have to get into, but like I said, polyomino tower defense. And then here we have the map, where we can place our stickers on, our removable stickers. I can't remember if they're removable. I remember there's a big buzz about it in the Kickstarter, but this is our map. As we explore through the kingdom, getting 3 stars in each level. It's basically like an app, if the app, instead of being $4 on your phone, was, you know, $200 for a ton of polyomino goodness. Look at that. That's just polyomino goodness right there. We got our map tiles, which barely need to be punched out. I mean, this is what the punch out looks like. Watch, ready? But, okay, that was not as smooth or as clean as I would have liked. But boom, we punched that out. Ta-da! Rinse and repeat for all of these tiles over here, with a few modifications and whatnot. And this is what you're getting. And now the fun stuff. Because this looks like abilities, I think. Maybe, yes, abilities. Look at that. Okay, so we got abilities written on all those tiles over there. What do they say? A good question, you ask. A good question, you say. We have multi-shot, like the wind. Choose a hero. That hero moves 1 space and performs a basic attack. Well, if that doesn't sound fun. Arcane Storm. A whole bunch of tiles get shot out. Knowledge is power. Use any other hero ability. Earthquake. Heroes in Moloch space have shield. Again, powers and abilities. That's my jam. We've talked about this. We know it. I like powers. I like abilities. And this box clearly has space for something in it. Perhaps the towers. I do wonder what the box has. I mean, it has a lot of extra stuff there. Here we have the trays. These are going to be an important part of the conversation, not the conversation, of moving your pieces around the board, stacking them in these trays so you don't have to try to continuously move all these tokens around. And they should have a nice stack, a little hole in the middle, makes it nice, easy, and accessible to grab them all. If you hear that banging from upstairs, that means my 1-year-old got his hands on something and is smacking it against everything. Okay, what else do we got here? Then we have over here, what do we have here? I got no clue what's in any of these things. We got miniatures. Miniatures, the reason we buy board games is because of miniatures. That is what we say, right? Look at that guy. Nice big hunk of chunky plastic. I imagine he fits nicely on a tray. See, look at that. He's on a tray, all by his own some, a giant hulking threat unto himself, an entity unto himself. And then we have these flame sister people who will clearly be taking him out in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know anything about this game, honestly, although I do recognize now that these people fit together fairly nicely. If you look at their bases over here, They are angled to fit together as one solid something or other. Then we have more miniatures, more plastic and cardboard to throw out. This is always the fun part of the unboxings, is the part at the end. Oh, look at this adorable... Oh, my daughter's going to love this. Ricky will love this if you can focus on it. I can't see it. Oh, there we go. Look at that tiny little cat. Absolutely adorable. Don't know what it does. Don't know anything about what these guys do. Honestly, this is not a game that I have for the miniatures. The miniatures are a nice extra touch on it, sure. But it's not a game I have for the miniatures at all. And then we have cards. Cards. So, let's look at some of these cards, and then we'll figure out where stuff goes later. There's actually a decent level of demand for the concept of what's it called? There's a decent level of demand for the concept of reboxings, of people who tell you where things go. I mean, Otherfields could have hugely benefited from someone who unboxed it and showed you how to set up your first game. It's very possible someone did that already. I saw a bunch of tutorials for the initial dream or whatnot. I didn't see anything for showing how to unbox. There is a guide, which is helpful, but a visual tutorial would be great. Showing people how to go. Companies should really do this, honestly. They should hire people to open a box from shrink and go through how to get your box from shrink to ready to go. Especially for these giant boxes. It's one thing when you buy a $30 retail game. It's another thing when you have all this stuff over here. Warped magic. Players must pass all of their mage-type towers this turn. The players may spend a gem to cancel the strike effect. Sudden starfall. Each hero with more than one heart suffers 1 damage. It's the worst. And then we have, look at these people. They got the little polyomino grid. In some way, you have to inflict damage on these beings or something or other. I don't actually know all the details of this stuff, like I said already. I do know that this will clearly not fit here with sleeved cards. They might fit in the box with sleeved cards. It's not going to fit in these holders with sleeved cards. They barely fit as it is. There's not room for 5 microns, let alone, multiple microns per card. Okay, so we got this. Let's go back to Shut Up and Sit Down. So, going all in on Kickstarter. Really, I should do the whole video about it. And I actually do have a video coming where I plan on talking about why Kickstarter is the best addiction. Because Kickstarter is an addiction. And going all in on a game you've never heard of 3 days ago is absolutely bizarre. They're not wrong about that. Backing all the expansions for a game that you don't know if you'll like. I mean, I have everything here. I have absolutely everything for Kingdom Rush. I don't know if I'm going to like this game. I'm excited, but if anything, the excitement is a reason why I won't keep it. I have this expectation, this hype built up around why Kingdom Rush is going to be so good. It can only disappoint. I mean, I've watched Tom Vassell's review. He liked it, but he gave it a seal of approval. Not a seal of excellence. I want my seal of excellence on this game because this game I'm excited for. It must be excellent, and therefore he must be wrong, and he clearly doesn't appreciate the wonder that is this game I haven't played yet. Which, by the way, is an entirely different conversation about the fact that we all look for what we want to look for in reviews. If we want people to tell us a game is not good enough, we look for that. If we want people to tell us that a game is good enough, we look for that. I want Kingdom Rush to be amazing because I backed it already. And so anyone who says anything other than the fact that it's amazing, these are going to be the sleeves for the towers or whatnot that they upgrade, I think. But anyone who says this game is not amazing is clearly and inherently wrong in their opinion because it goes against what I want to be true. And what I want to be true is more important than actual truth in and of itself. And so same idea applies to Shut Up and Sit Down. I mean, they said Otherfields was not worth getting. Again, I'll cover my actual review when I'm more than, right now I'm about 6 or 7 hours in. I want to get a little bit further than that before I actually do a review. This would be box 1. So let's go ahead. So why are we backing these games? Then, I need to get this out of the way, sorry. Why are we backing these games with all the expansions before we've even tried them? Why are we doing this to ourselves? And the reason I go all in is already a conversation that I've answered in the past, which comes down to 2 core concepts. And this will be the subject of, like I said, a dedicated video of why Kickstarter is the best addiction. But the general principle at hand, the general principle of that video, is the idea that Kickstarter to me represents 2 things combined. It represents games that I enjoy tremendously. I cataloged my top 50 games of all time, and I'd have to double check the number, but if I'm not mistaken, it was either 14 or 12 of my top 50 games of all time are Kickstarter games. These aren't just flash-in-the-pan phenomenons that go away. I have a whole nother video talking about how many good Kickstarter games there are. It's easy. It is ridiculously easy to dismiss these things as being not worthy. To dismiss these games as being just, temporary fads that no one cares about. But you can complain all you want about Otherfield. You can complain all you want about Awakened Realms, but look at the ratings on those games. Now, you should ding a few points for sure. you should absolutely ding a few points for the fact that people don't want to be told their game is bad. They will overlook something that they spent hundreds of dollars on. I will hold on to Kingdom Rush easier than I would another game because I've invested so much time and money into it. So definitely ding it a few points. But ultimately, Kingdom Rush will either see play or it won't. And that will stand on the merit of the game itself. It will not stand on the fact that I spent money on this game. And I hope that's true across the board. I understand someone wanting to rate a game higher. What are these? Are these just trays? I understand someone wanting to rate a game higher. These are just trays. Oh, and some tokens. And some stuff. I have no clue what this is. I guess stretch goal stuff. I'll take it. What is this? We got a giant poster of some sort, which I don't care at all about. But I guess we'll see if it goes up somewhere. I don't know. But yeah. I understand someone wanting to rate a game higher than they would otherwise because they invested a lot of time and money into it. I would hope for their sake, if not for mine, that they're not playing games that they don't love. Don't play a game just because you spent money on it. Play a game because it's awesome. Play a game because it's amazing. There is such a bevy of incredible games out there. And so yes, there are many, many Kickstarters I have backed and then moved on from and sold them. And again, that goes back to the entire nature of my channel. The reason I focus so heavily on the value proposition, the reason I focus so heavily on whether it makes sense financially to back a game, is so that I can enjoy this. I can enjoy this process of getting 6 boxes full of a game I love. I backed this game, I was excited. I got the updates, I was excited. I did another video about it, I was excited. I got the game, I'm unboxing it on camera, I'm excited. I'm going to have to put together these towers that it seems tedious and not exciting at all. I'm probably going to play the game first, make sure I like it, because honestly, this is not exciting. This, by the way, is the perks of getting games used. Sometimes you get games used, and the towers are all assembled for you. So there goes that whole excitement thing. Going back to my excitement thing, I unbox the game, I'm excited. I then play the game. And either the excitement lasts and carries through, or it doesn't. And if it does, then I end up with another Cthulhu Death May Die in my collection. I end up with another Arena the Contest. I end up with another Blood Rage, which granted I didn't back on Kickstarter, but it is a Kickstarter game. There are so many amazing experiences you can get. Or, I play it and it's good, but not for me. Street Masters, a game that I think was excellent, but it wasn't going to see play often enough in my collection. I preferred Marvel Champions and the experience it gave me. Very different, but there's an overlap in the feel I got out of the two of them. And so I got rid of Street Masters. And I think I got like $50 more than I paid for it. Or Tidal Blades. My excitement was waning for the game when it was arriving. I've talked about this already. It could be an amazing game. I don't know. But the negative reviews that I did see, they did talk about things that I was worried about. And so my excitement started going away. And so I sold it while I still could. But I didn't lose on Tidal Blades. I enjoyed the hype of the journey. I enjoyed getting the game. I enjoyed the updates. I enjoyed getting excited. And then I stopped being enjoyed and I sold it and again made like 20 bucks on it or something like that. I don't back Kickstarter games to make money. Wow, look at that thing. I love it. I love it. Again, excitement, you see? This is all part of the journey that I go on, and honestly, now that I'm thinking about this, if you watch the video of why Kickstarter is the best addiction, you're going to see a lot of overlap with what I'm saying here because these are the main talking points of that video. The concept of if you can do no harm, if you can sit there and not hurt yourself, not expend money, not waste money, if you can back the right games and sell them for what you paid for, even if you don't make a cent extra, then what you're signed up for is you've signed up for this journey that is Kickstarter, of this hype, this excitement, this energy. And you get all that. And you get your money back at the end of it, or you get a good game. Could you ask for anything more? I don't get the level of journey and excitement from other games that I do from Kickstarter games. What's a highly rated Kickstarter? What's a highly rated game that I have in my collection? Terraforming Mars, which granted has had Kickstarters, but the original game, Terraforming Mars, is a game that I didn't get any of that journey when I got that game. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, I got the game, and I love the game. And it's one of my favorite games. I think it's my number, I'm not going to tell you, it's somewhere. It's high there, it's high up. But nonetheless, I didn't get that initial journey. There's an entirely different part of gaming that you don't get in a retail game. There's a reason people collect games. I don't like collecting games, but there's a reason people do. Sometimes there's a joy to just ownership. There's a joy to having things in the collection. Sometimes there's a joy to pulling a game off the shelf, looking at the rules, looking at the pieces, and just being excited about what comes next. This hobby is about having fun, and it would be limiting to assume that the only fun that can be had is from the actual playing of the game. Why would you deny someone any form of enjoyment from the hobby? And again, key thing, do not be damaging. if you're damaging yourself, if you're buying things you can't afford, if your purchases are getting you into having multiple arguments with your significant other, man or woman, then it's probably a different conversation entirely, and that's not one that I am supporting, as it were. But the idea of doing no harm, the idea of enjoying yourself all along the way, whether that enjoyment comes from the collection, the journey, the Kickstarter updates you see all the time, for me, that enjoyment has expanded into content creation. It's a whole nother aspect of the hobby that I'm here to enjoy. It doesn't have to be limited to pulling a game off your shelf and playing it. It does not have to be that way at all, and it's limiting to assume it does. And this basically became a little miniature preview version of why Kickstarter is the best addiction. And we have one box left, one box to go. The miniatures in this are cool, honestly, but they're not why I back the game, which is why I'm focusing on them less than I would otherwise. And by the way, speaking of miniatures, I'll tell you this much about other fields. I haven't done my review. Again, like I said, I need more time. I have opinions, that's for sure. But I will tell you this, because I can't imagine this opinion changing before the review's up. The miniatures in that game are gorgeous and also useless. And ISS Vanguard, they just announced today, or today being Thursday, they just announced today, ISS Vanguard, look at that guy, he's so cute! These monsters are adorable, I love it. Absolutely adorbs. ISS Vanguard, which they announced on Thursday, clearly is going to have a miniatures pack. So you know those only 8 miniatures you get in the game? That's base game alone. Actual, and then who knows about stretch goals, of course. But actual add-ons, they're going to have a miniatures pack. And I'm assuming, from having played ISS Vanguard, I cannot say this with certainty, maybe Marcin will correct me. Marcin, if you do watch this video, feel free to correct me, please do. But my assumption from having played ISS Vanguard is that the miniatures for that game are going to be as useful as they are in other fields, which is to say, at points in the game, you will need to put a miniature on the board representing something. But let's using other fields as an example, when that happens in other fields, you do it so infrequently per specific miniature that a generic token works just fine. You don't need the miniatures pack, you can certainly get it, but it is completely extra in your experience. I believe ISS Vanguard will be basically the same idea. They both have movement, so they both do need miniatures for that kind of representation. So it's not a complete waste or whatnot, but it's certainly not the level of identifier that you need when you're playing a game that's a dungeon crawl of any kind. It is helpful, it is fun, I will of course be getting it, because my warnings about what makes sense are very different than what I actually do. There's 2 different kinds of things I'm going to talk about in general. There's what makes sense, well, more than 2. There's always more than 2. There's what makes sense financially. There's what you should potentially do if you have to be conservative with your funds. And then there's what I will do, also knowing full well that if I don't like the game, those extra miniatures will hold their value. And if I do like the game, I try to deluxify my experiences. Getting your extra miniature pack is no different than someone getting their broken token, no different than someone getting their, I don't know, their Bakelite set of Quacks of Quedlinburg. Sometimes when we love things, we want to make them pretty, even when it doesn't actually make sense. And that's why I'll caution you not to get things that I will get myself. Until next time, this has been my unboxing of Kingdom Rush: A Rift in Time, that mostly had nothing to do with Kingdom Rush at all, more of a monologue and shut up and sit down and other fields, and Kickstarter as a healthy addiction, healthy-ish addiction. And as always, have a good one.